Now we can see the basic and simple microservices running with one simple CRUD operation, right? You can see all the APIs, nodes. I'm able to create a node, and we can get the list of all the nodes, and we can get the node by ID. Similarly, there is a patch and delete and a put. Okay, so these are the basic APIs we have written. Now, what is the next thing? Next thing is having some test cases for our applications, unit test cases or the integration test cases. We have created the DTOs, we have created the controllers, doing all the validations. We will also be able to write the end-to-end test cases which will validate all these APIs like create node, update node, delete node, get node by ID or find node by different options, right? So that will be covered in the end-to-end test cases. Here we can think of creating the unit test cases for the services and for the controllers. So how do we do this? We already have the jest setup. So what we can do is .service.spec.ts, and already jest is looking for all the spec.ts files. Okay, so we'll first create the import all the required things, test and testing module. Test and testing module from nextjs testing. Here also we need to bootstrap the nextjs module, override the services, call the methods, and check if the service method has been called or not using spy. And we can use jest for that, jest for spy and mocking. Okay, so I will simply go to our required thing, required dependencies I will import. Like we are going to import the node service, and then we are also going to use Synon for creating a stub. So I will import that npm install -- save Synon, and I think we are missing only the types. Okay, and the node entity, we will be getting it from the entity folder, and then all the DTOs. For now, it's just a unit test cases, so we don't worry much about the end-to-end test cases and populating the data inside a database. Okay, now we can just create a describe it block. Node service, this is our callback. This is how we put the describe block, and inside this we can use before all, because before executing all we need to initialize the nextjs module. So this is going to be async initialization. Okay, so here we are going to initialize our nextjs module. Before that, let's create node service. Node service is of type node service, one variable, and we also going to create a sandbox from Synon sandbox. Okay, now before all, what we are going to do is we are going to create a sandbox, okay, for this service, and we are going to override the service method like using provider. So if you take a look onto this, what we are doing, test.create testing module, and we are focusing on the test service. Okay, so what we are saying is there is a node service is a provider. Okay, what we want to do is we wanted to override it with our custom definition, because we can't directly talk to the database, it's a unit test. So we are saying is we are getting the repository token from the TypeORM. This is how you can mock a particular repository, and we are using this particular stub instance for the same repository. That means Now whenever we are doing a node service dot create, find, update, delete, all these will be triggered to this Synon sandbox. Okay, and then finally we are getting the node service from this module. We have actually changed the definition of node service in this unit test cases because we have override the providers. Node service is the actual provider, but we actually changed the definition of this provider with this value, Synon dot create stub instance. Now test cases can be simple. Like what we can do is we can just check if this particular method is getting called or not. So this is our before all. I think it is finishing here. Now what we can do is should call save node method. So we are doing a just.spy on node service, and there is a save node method. Now explicitly call it save node DTO, right? And then we can just check if this particular method has been called or not. Similarly, other set of methods, this is, I mean, I didn't like much these kind of unit test cases where we are just checking a particular method has been called or not. Find one node spy, so there is a find one node method. The find one option is empty. When you call this method, then this particular method has been called or not, to have been called, right? So similarly, we have a delete and update note and delete, and once everything is done we have to restore the sandbox. So here we created update node spy and we are spying on update node, and then we are explicitly calling update node. That means this spy has been called with the node ID and DTO, right? So to have been called with, these are the assertions we always check. To have been called means that method has been called. To have been called with means that method has been called with these set of arguments, right? Node ID and DTO. So here is a node ID, DTO, and update node. This is what we are calling. This is the delete node. Okay, so these are like the basic unit tests we have written. Now what we will do is we can also write the same thing for the controllers, and then we will write unit test cases, integration test cases for testing the actual APIs, because we are able to run the APIs here. API get all nodes. I'm able to see all the nodes which has been created. I can also create a new node by passing these two parameters. So there are more things, like currently we are only talking about the basic unit test cases, but integration test case should talk to the integration database, and we should also be able to seed some data and should be able to drop the data once the test case is done, right? Because every time when we are running the integration test case, what we want is our database table should be truncated, should be empty, so that we can test from the fresh for each and every block. Okay, let's see the integration test in the next video. So here we are, and we are running the npm run test against node service.spec.ts. All the test cases are passing, the same test cases we have written. Now next thing we are doing is writing the test case for the controller. So node.controller.spec.ts. Okay, this is a unit test case. What we are going to do here is we are going to follow the same strategy. We are going to import the testing module and import the controller and import the service. This is going to be a little bit simple because if you see the controller is totally dependent on the service. If we can somehow mock this service methods, that means we can just check, okay, when we are calling save node, this save node from the service has been called or not, right? A simple mocking. So what we can do is we will import the controller. Import controller from, I think we are in the same folder, so nodes controller, and the controller name is nodes controller. Okay, now we can also service, import node service, and this service we are importing from service folder. We have to get actual service, and then we will override it using provider. Okay, Now same describe it block we can copy. We're going to do a little bit different things. What we will do is let's say let app controller. This controller will be of type node controller, and there will be a spy service we will create that will be of type node service. Okay, and here we will initialize our bootstrap our module, which is same as like const testing module equal to this, and compile it. Okay, same way I'm writing at many places. So here it will be node controller instead of this, and we are passing node service. And now we are going to create another service which will override it. So const, because what we need to do, we know that service is actually talking to the repositories, but we can mock the service here, API service provider, and here we are talking about provide. We are looking for node service and we will override it. What we do is use factory. This is how we override it. Use factory and define all your methods here. This is a function which is going to return all the mockings. Okay, now all the service methods whatever we have in the node service, we can mock it here using just, let's say let's go to node service. I have one method name is save node. Save node find all nodes, let's say. So how can I mock? Using just.fn I think, and here we can return whatever you want, like an empty array or anything. So this is one method. Similarly we have to mock all the methods. Find all nodes. Now what other methods we have? Find all nodes, find one node, find one node. Okay, find one node will be a single object. I mean, you can provide the custom response and can check if this is working fine or not. I'm just putting empty array. Okay, save node is going to respond something like this. So what we are doing is we are actually overriding the definition of node service with these factory methods using just mocking. Okay, now we can get the controller. Okay, now we can get the instance of controller. Before each or before all, whatever you want to use. So here we will get the app controller. In our case it is, let's call it as a node controller, not app controller. So node controller, now we can get the instance from the module app.get. How we get it? And this is app controller. App.get, give me this node controller. Okay, and there is a spy service for the node service we have created, that also we are doing app.get. How we will get it? Using node service. Now we got whatever we need. We got the service, we got the controller. Now we can play with only these two objects. Okay, controller, when I'm calling this method, the service method is getting called or not, right? And we already did the mocking. So there are other methods also in the node service. Find one node, I think update, delete node, update node and delete node also we can mock. This one and this one. That's it. I think we have delete node, update node, all the methods have been mocked. Now our simple method can be, okay, this particular method has been called or not, right? So we'll just start with it, putting some statement. calling save nodes method. Okay, what we will do is expect, we have the controller, nodes controller dot. Now what all methods we have? Save node, when I call it dot not equals to null, right? Or you can just say okay that has been called or not. An argument DTO is not provided. Okay, this is taking some argument. I can just pass the empty object. Let's see, save node is taking one argument. Let's go to node service. Let's go to controller and see what the save node is taking. So it is taking the body, right? The object of this create node DTO. We can pass that. So what we need to do, we need to create an object of this const DTO equal to new create node DTO and just pass this DTO. We need to import this. Okay, now simply this is how we will keep calling other methods. Let's write another assertion for this only. We will not do expect for this. We are just calling this, and we can create a spy. So what we can expect is expect spy service dot. So what all methods we have? Save node to have been called. Okay, to have been called, and we can also check to have been called with. I mean what argument we are passing? Create node, we are just passing the same DTO object, right? So we can say that it has been called with the same DTO object or not. To have been called with DTO object, right? So this is how we will keep adding the test cases. So here we can see all the test cases are passing. Now few more test cases you can add, like calling get all nodes, calling find node by ID. So what we are doing is we are just calling the controller method and we are checking that service method has been called or not, or has been called with. All these things you can test. Here like get all nodes, it's not taking any argument. So we are just checking spy service dot find all nodes has been called or not. This has been called, and we can also add has been called with DTO for this. So these are like very basic unit test cases. Now next important thing is we will write the end-to-end test cases in the next video. That will talk about okay hitting the actual API. We already have set up for the jest to execute the end-to-end test cases. So here we can see we have the npm script. For that, npm run test e2e, that will start the end-to-end test case. Here we can see npm run test watch mode, test with coverage, test with debug. All these things are available. So we will also do test with npm run test e2e. What it is doing is it is going to look for just e2e JSON. Here inside test we have just e2e JSON, and that will tell us like which test cases needs to be executed. So it will look for e2e spec.ts. So we need to just follow that syntax. Inside test we can create a folder. Okay, this is for the nodes, and for the nodes I will be creating nodes end-to-end test.spec.ts. These unit test cases are slow, that's why I was showing the previous result, and all are passing. So here we can create nodes e2e spec.ts, and end-to-end test cases are simpler than the unit test cases. Means you just have to know like what is the endpoint you need to hit, and that endpoint will give you the 200 status code, 201, like get, put, post, delete, right? So our objective for this couple of videos is to baseline a foolproof microservice having all the configurations code, having all the linters, all the prettier, all the setup with the Docker, and all the test cases, test case coverage, unit test cases, integration test cases. This integration test case we will cover in the next video. Till now we have done the setup of the whole microservice. Now you can extend it to any particular level. Okay, that's it. Thanks everyone. Hi everyone, this is just a last piece in the unit testing, and I wanted to simplify the testing of services in a different way. So we have already seen this node service.spec.ts, and here I was using the Synon sandbox, and I was like using get repository token from the TypeORM to create a mock sandbox for this. But we don't need to, I mean, you can still simplify this by just creating the provider for the node service as a mock provider, right? The same thing I have written here, and I wanted to talk about this because this is really a simplified approach in comparison to the earlier one. What we are doing here is this node service is something which we are going to test. So we are creating the provider, mock provider for it, and you can override any provider by just defining the provide and use class. So what I'm overriding node service, and I'm overriding it with this mock class, right? And this mock class has all same methods: save node, find one node, find all nodes, delete node, update node. It's like I have provided a mock implementation of the service, right? And I have put that in the provider here while bootstrapping the testing module, and then I got the node service. Right now I can, the rest all code is same in both the test cases. Here you can see after creating the sandbox I'm doing the same thing, creating the spy and all. Here also the code is, rest of the code is same. We are creating the spy on the save node, we are calling this method and checking if this particular method has been called. The only difference here is about the mocking. Here while bootstrapping the module, we are providing API service provider, which is overriding the definition of node service with this class. So it takes two argument, right? It takes two argument, which is provide and the use class. Provide means the service, and the use class means with which mock class you want to override the node service. And then we got this service through the module.get, and then we are just checking each and every method. Okay, this is just a missing piece. So you can check, you can test all the services you are writing in the nextjs. With this method you can create all the mocks together for all the services in one particular mock folder. Okay, node service, contact service, user service, create a mock, and you can even define the response, particularly in an object, in an array, and the real response which you are getting from the repository, and then your testing will be foolproof, right? So this is the only missing piece. Now in the next couple of videos we'll talk about end-to-end testing, and then 12-factor app principle, which we are going to apply on this microservice, how we can make it more secure, how we can make it how we can expose the interface, how we can secure the application with the different modules, how we can do the logging, how we can do the health check, all different principles which a microservice must have. All these we will apply on this.